Alright guys, welcome back to another video, and today's video is all about how to wear this thing correctly. I've seen a lot of people talking about there how things are blurry and they can't see things correctly and the text is blurry and all this kind of stuff, and I also see people talking about this Mura effect that people aren't aware of because a lot of reviewers didn't mention it in their original reviews, and they're seeing this like a film grain effect, and I want to talk about all of this, but more importantly I want to help you guys get this thing on correctly to show you guys how it's supposed to be worn, so you guys, if you're having blurriness issues, you guys can get that resolved as much as possible. So let's go ahead and get into the video.
Gaming tech, eating brekkie is the gaming tech, going for a brekkie is the gaming tech, gaming techie is the gaming tech, gaming techie.
Alright guys, so the first thing we're going to talk about is how to actually wear this thing correctly. So, first thing you're going to do is there is a top button here on the top right of the headset, and it pushes the headset forward and backwards. So, push it all the way forward just to start off. And that's where I'm going to leave it right here. And then, obviously, you can see I wear glasses and everything like that. And the thing I'm going to show you is I'm going to put this headset on just like this. And there's a button on the back of this. And then when you press this button in, that's what lets the strap go back and forth. So that is what you're going to press. You're going to hold that button in the back and put this on your head. And boom, I'm in VR just like that. Now, the first thing you need to do is, obviously, let's grab our controllers here that are on the floor just for the sake of having them in our hands. But the first thing we're going to do before we even worry about the controllers is when I put this headset on like this, you never know if you actually have it in the right position on your head because it's going to be hard to know exactly where it goes every single time. So don't start a game, don't be in a game or anything like that because that's where things get hard to notice. What I do is just like when you turn this on, when you press the power button here at the bottom, I usually have this turned on even before I put my headset on, so I already have mine turned on. And when I get in here, the first thing you see is, of course, the PlayStation dashboard, and I want you to go into your game library where you're seeing all of the icons on the screen here. That makes it so much easier. So when you're in the PlayStation library here and you're just looking at this, it makes things a lot easier. So what I'm going to do is I'm looking at the game tiles right now, and if I just let this headset go, or if I put it at the bottom, this looks blurry as all hell. And if I move it up, it's also blurry. But obviously if I hold this headset center like this, things are perfectly aligned where they need to be. So the first thing I'm going to tell you to do is I want you to find that sweet spot, move this up and down, look at your game tiles and make sure the text is perfectly clear because there's no reason why this wouldn't look perfect right now like it does for me in this position. Then go ahead and take the dial in the back and you can twist it upwards to tighten. When you get that into position, there's that top dial or the top button on the top right that I told you about. Go ahead and press it. It's going to let loose the headset, move it all the way forward for a second, and obviously, you don't want to leave this all the way forward because then things are going to be rocking, and that's not the way you wear the headset, but this is where you can start it. And then push it all the way back until you can't go anymore. You want to push it back as much as possible because obviously the closer you get this thing to your head, the closer, the bigger FOV you're going to have to see more inside the headset. No, when you have this pressed as far back as you can, and it's in position and it clicks in, just like I just did there, then take the dial in the back and tighten it even more all the way, and now you're in the right position. And right now this is 100% perfectly clear. I can read all the text in these game images, and I have no issues at all. Now, with these actual controllers, what I really like is that you can just hit the pass-through button here. As you guys know, there's a pass-through button on the bottom of the headset here on the bottom right. It's the headset, the button on the right side. And now I'm seeing pass-through. So what makes this easy is now I can pick up my controllers. What I really like about these controllers is the actual strap, because you can actually just twist your hands just like that, and the headset actually, or the strap actually goes right into your hands, and things are ready to go really easily. So let me show you that, guys, again. You put the strap on just like this, and you can see it's loose, and then you just twist your arm, and boom, that strap is ready and ready to go. And now I have my two controllers in my hand. Of course, hold the PlayStation button if you need to turn these controllers on if they're not on already. And then you're obviously on the main menu, right? So let's say things are still blurry for you right now, and you're still not seeing things correctly. Well, press the PlayStation button on your controller, the little PlayStation logo, and it's going to pop up something that says Quick Settings PlayStation VR2. Click on that little game tile there, and it's going to bring up a menu. Now, what you need to pay attention to here is there's Adjust Visibility. Really, really important because you never know if you have this position 100% correctly. When I click on it right now, I think things are perfect, right? Well, actually, mine's a little bit crooked, according to this. So if I want to adjust this again, I can press the button here, adjust it in the position that it thinks I need to be in, make sure my eyes are correctly level, and then boom, now my headset is in the right area. But your eyes are going to be being looked at by the eye tracking of the headset, so make sure that it's positioned in blue, just like this thing is telling you right here. There's also a lens adjustment right here at the top, which moves the lenses left or right depending on where they need to be, and it will move your eyes, and you put them in the position when your eyes are most centered. And when your eyes are in there centered, then you know that you have this thing on correctly. So when this is dialed in correctly, now you see the screen is clear and you see that it's telling you you're in the blue area and your eyes look good and they're directly in the center of the lenses. Now you know that you're in good position to start playing VR. If you're still blurry and you're still having an issue here, what you can do, again, you go back to that same menu, you press the PlayStation button on your controller, go back to the quick settings that we just talked about, scroll all the way to the bottom, and you will see eye tracking. If you guys remember, you adjusted your eye tracking when you first turned on your PlayStation VR, that it made you go through it in the setup. If you somehow set that up wrong or things got moved around and stuff, go ahead and go in here and adjust your eye tracking. Make sure that when you look left, right, bottom, right, and corner, that things are looking correct. You can actually see in real time while I'm looking around if I actually am looking where I think I'm looking. And that will make sure that your things are positioned on your head correctly. If they're not, there's a button right there that you can adjust your eye tracking. You can adjust it, re-looking at the targets, and then things will be better than the way before. Because remember, your eyes are being tracked in some of the games. You use foveated rendering, so you want that stuff all situated correctly. Now, at this point, I think I covered everything on how to wear this correctly, so I'm going to go ahead and take this off for you guys. Now, obviously, it shouldn't be blurry anymore. There's no way it should be by doing all those things that I just talked about. Remember, don't be in a game trying to adjust these settings. Be at the main menu, look at the game library, because that's the easiest way to tell if things are clear, because it looks perfect on there for me right now. You want to be on the game tile section, looking at the tiles, making sure you can read the text. When things are perfectly dialed in that position, then you're ready to go and jump into VR. But there's something we got to talk about that a lot of people have been asking about, and that's the Mura effect. And what that is if you guys are launching a game after that, and things are clear when you're looking at the game library, then you go into a game, you're like, why does this have like a film texture thing? Things look blurry. It's not actually that things look blurry, is that there's a film texture grainy thing going on in the front. That's coming from the OLED panels. It's kind of a caveat with these OLEDs being that close to your face. That's why people coming from like the Quest or the Quest 2 or things like that are not noticing it, because those aren't using OLED technology, but the PSVR2 is. And it does give you better colors, contrast, and black levels and stuff like that. But it does have this effect. And what it is in some games, it's definitely more apparent than others. For me, I haven't really noticed it in many of the games that I've played, except for Kayak VR and the nighttime scene. If you go into Kayak VR and the nighttime scene, no matter what you do, whether you're looking for it or not, you're going to easily notice that there's like little square boxes all the way down inside the actual headset. It looks like a film grain effect with a bunch of little squares in front of you, and that's, again, the OLED panels. Is it something that you can get over and ignore? Absolutely. You can also adjust the brightness settings in the same quick settings that I just talked about. Lower the settings a little bit, 2 or 3 notches on the brightness, and that will make that effect even less apparent if you want to do that. Of course, you're losing brightness that way, but it is something you can play with. But for me, most of the games like Pistol Whip and Demio and Headshot and Zombieland Headshot Fever, not something you notice unless if you specifically look for it, and it's really hard to notice otherwise. So, for example, when I was in Zombieland, I only knew to look for it because people were talking about it. If I didn't even know, it looked perfectly great. The graphics were fantastic. But if I stopped and paused and wasn't paying attention to the game and looked for spots in the center of the screen, I can notice that effect, that Mura effect, and I can notice all the little individual squares if I looked hard for it. But if you're just playing games and you don't look for it, you're going to get over that really quickly, and you're not going to notice it in a majority of titles, especially if you lower that brightness a little bit. In some occasional games when the blackness levels are really high and there's different contrast ratios going on in the background, like in Kayak VR, it is going to be more apparent, and it's just the nature of the tech. There's nothing wrong with your headset or anything, and sometimes it even gets better as the headset keeps wearing, depending on how the OLEDs set in. So it could affect things a little bit differently. But either way, it's not the effect of how you're wearing the headset. It's not the fact that things aren't clear. That's why I said adjust your settings on the main menu, because you don't see the Mura effect on there. Adjust everything there, make sure things are clear, then get into games and you know you're good to go. Like I said, for me, things are perfectly clear in there by following the guide that I just talked about, and the Mura effect is there on a couple or a handful of games that I noticed, but most of the time not really noticeable, easily to not look for it, unless if you're just annoyed by it and you're looking for it really clearly and stuff like that. But otherwise, Kayak VR is the only one that's made it really apparent in dark scenes. Other than that, things look fantastic, in my opinion, on the PSVR2, even with that effect. Are these lenses just as good as they are on the Quest Pro, for example? No, they're not as clear as the pancake lenses that those lenses are using, because these are still using Fresnel lenses, and with that effect, they're not going to appear as clear in all areas like they would on the Quest Pro. But I think the trade-offs are worth it, because in most of the games I don't notice it, really easy to get over, and you get the benefits of OLED with the dark blacks, because the blacks in there are freaking crazy good, better than any other headset that I've used. You get the crazy colors, the crazy contrast ratio, and things look fantastic in there otherwise. But hopefully that helps you guys. If you guys have any questions about anything I talked about here, guys, as always, leave it down below. If not, thank you guys for watching. Till next time.